Okay, I'm going to try to walk you through how to set up slides on the new website. So here we see the WordPress control panel. So once you're in the control panel with the credentials I sent you in your email, you will go down to the slider revolution, which will control all the slides you have. So this first one, the homepage slider, is the one that's going to control the slides. The second one, deeds, that was just a test one I made. You can feel free to delete that if you want to. But if we open up the homepage slider, you will see the 3 slides in there that I have right now. And I'm just going to create a blank slide just to test this out. We're just going to create a whole new slide. So we're going to, first we will create the background image for it. So we'll select the main image. We'll select it from the media library. So I'm just going to select one of the images that I sent you, and or one of the images that's already in there. And I would recommend using the same dimensions that I've already used, which you can see right here, the 1060 by 520. That seems to work well for these slides. Anything else, and I think it just gets too big, and that seems to work well for most size screens. And so all of them are going to be that same size. So if you have a bigger image, I would try to crop it or resize it to around that same size, just for consistency's sake, and just so it's not too big or too small for most screens. So if you insert that, you'll see that it takes up the size of slider, and that's what size the slider is anyway. So that's what size you want to set your image to. And these two blue lines right here, you want to keep all your text and your graphics within these blue lines, just because those are going to be kind of crop lines. So most screens are going to be, those are kind of the safe lines. So most screens are going to keep everything within these blue lines. So everything is going to, this is going to work on a layer system. So all the text, all the different rectangles, any images that you import, even any videos that you bring into the slide is going to work on layers. So I don't know if you're familiar with Photoshop at all. Photoshop works on a layer system, and the Revolution slider also works on a layer system. So if you hover over this, you can see all the different types of layers you can bring in. You can bring in text, images, audios, videos, buttons that can bring you to different pages on the website, shapes, objects, all these different things. So we were going to bring in a text. So we will type in some text. When you're done, you hit the green check mark, and then if you hover over it, it'll bring up the little 4 arrow icon, and that means you can drag it around. You can resize the text box if you need to make it bigger for any reason. To make the text larger, your first instinct is going to be to try and type in the text box, but what you really want to do is highlight it, and then you want to highlight it in this black box up here, and then up here you can increase the text size to whatever size you want. So it kind of works backwards. Then see, because my text box down here was too big, it wrap the text around down here. But then if I increase the text the text box down here, then it increases it, or then it will bring the text down to one line. So it kind of works a little bit differently than maybe what you're used to. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. Then if I increase the size again, I'll have to increase the size, and then make the text box wider if I want to show it on one size show it on one line. If I don't want to show it on one line, then I can move the text box around to show it on multiple lines. But then see, it's kind of overlapping right here. So the second box here, if I hover over it, it shows line height. So because I've increased the font size, but I haven't increased the line height, that's why I'm getting this overlap. So if I want to increase the line height to around the same size as the font size, and then I'll get proper spacing between my two lines, and then everything looks good. So there's my font size, or there's my text, and you'll want to play around with it whenever you're putting in whatever you want your text to be. If I was setting this up as a slide, I would want this to be quite a bit bigger, just so it looks proper. I would make this probably around 70, and then that probably looks about appropriate. If I was actually setting this up, I'd probably set this the text so it kind of sits on the horizon line there, and that looks pretty good. And then if I want to change the color, I can select the text, and then if I go up here, I can change the font color to black, and if I move this slider up, then I can see all the different colors. This changes the darkness of it, but because that was all the way down, then it just shows black and white. But if I slide it all the way up, now I can see all the different colors. So there, if I want blue, then I want to slide that down to white, then it changes it to darker blue or lighter blue, or whatever particular color that I want. Let's just say for now, I want to go ahead and let's go ahead and keep it white for now, and or white. Let's go ahead and add a shape layer. And we'll add a rectangle like we did before, or like is on the site now. So the background color that we want, again, all we see is black and white originally, and there's as far as I can tell, there's not really a way to change that. So we'll slide this up, and we see all the various colors. All we see right now in the background picture is mostly white, green, and blue. If you want to add some different colors in there, we can add red. This controls the background color, and of course you see it's highlighted red up here. This box here controls the transparency. So it's at 0.5, which means it's halfway transparent. If I set this to 1, now you see it's actually solid red, like we had it before, or like you would think it would be. If you want to add a border to it, then you could set this would control the border color, this would control the border transparency, this would control the border width or thickness. If you wanted to control the radius around the edges of the rectangle, you would set that here. You can set each corner individually. For now, that's fine. We'll just go ahead and add that. And there's the rectangle. Oh, I didn't show you this. If you wanted to specifically align this text in a certain way, say I wanted to align this to the center. So if I hit hit this button right here, layer align center. So that aligned this specifically to the center of the slide horizontally, and this aligns it to the center of the slide vertically, or this will align it to the top, this will align it to the bottom, and you get the gist of it. Or I can just drag it and put it wherever I want to. So now I will select my rectangle. And of course I can, if I will hover over this little box right here, my little 4 arrow icon changes to the little arrow pointing to the right. So then I can drag it. But now you see that the layer is over the text. So now I can't see the text. And that's because I added the rectangle after I added the text. So by default, every layer that you add, every layer is going to be on top that you add, how do I word this? Every layer that you add chronologically is going to be on top. So because I added the rectangle after I added the text, it's going to be on top of the text. And you but you can always reorder it by going down to this timeline down here. So this shows the entire timeline of the slide. So this blue line down here is the whole slide. So this shows the length of the slide by default, and I'll get to that. So this shows that the slide lasts 9 seconds. This gray line, this Come Visit With Us, this shows the layer of the text, and then this shape shows the layer of the rectangle. And this shows that they both come in about, looks like 0.3 seconds after the slide starts. And it's somewhat confusing with the rectangle, but this, you would think, according to this timeline, that the text is on top of the rectangle, but this is in reverse. This is actually shows that the it's reversed down here, so the layers that are on bottom in the timeline will actually show up on top on the layer order. But you can move these around down here just by clicking and dragging. Oh, that should have. And oh, okay. Then you go up here, and now, so once you move this on top of the order down here, then I can move the text, and now it's on top of the rectangle up here. Now I have my rectangle, and now I can move it, and I have my text, and I can move it on top of my rectangle. So now it's visible, and now it's no problem. So now I can now I see my rectangle, now I see my text, and we are all good. So now that we have added those layers and we can see everything, now let's go to the slide animation. So this is going to be how the slide animates. So by default, it added in a fade animation. So the fade, that's how the slide is going to fade it, the slide transition as it's going to come in or going to come out. And you can do this. It's very versatile, and you can do the first time the slide comes in, it's going to do a fade. The second time it comes in, it's going to do a different transition. So you can do it, it's going to do the same transition each time, it's going to do a different transition every time it comes in. You can do it however you want to. So for now, I'm going to choose maybe a slide, but you have to decide that each time I'm going to uncheck the fade. So by default, I can't. You always have to have one transition chosen. I can't uncheck. I can't have all transitions unchecked. So you can go through here and you can see all the various transitions that are chosen. But those show the various transitions, and those are easy enough to go through. As far as the text or the different layers, those are controlled down here. So as I choose each individual layer, I choose the layer, then go over to the, instead of the Style tab, I'll go to the Animation tab, and I choose the drop-down menu, and I'll see the different animations that they have. So by default, it has fade in chosen, and unlike the slide, I can only choose one for this. So maybe I'll choose letters fly in from bottom, and you'll see how that behaves down there. Maybe I'll choose pop up smooth, and you'll see how that behaves. And you can go through each one of these and see how each one of those looked out. And you can also these various things, or these various options, control how each one of these controls the animation. So the animation speed is going to control how fast the animation acts. So this is animation speed in milliseconds. So if I put a smaller number in there, it's going to do the same animation, but it's going to do it much faster. A higher number is going to do it much slower. So maybe I like that animation, but I wanted to do a slower animation. So I'm going to do it in 3000 milliseconds or in 3 seconds. So there's the same animation, it just did it half as fast. And if I want to do an animation out, then I can do, it's going to do an animation in, and it's going to do an animation out. But you also have to be aware that here is the cutoff point of the slide, this black dotted line. As you can see, the animation out is this lighter color of red, but it doesn't start the animation out until the slide already ends. So you're not going to see the animation out. So if you want to see the animation out, you can just drag this point down, and now you will see the actual animation out of that layer. Then if you want to do the same, then you have to do the same thing for the rectangle, and you can control the exact same thing for the rectangle. And typically, or what I did for the other slides, and you can go through and select each slide kind of as a template and see what I did there. I tried to match the animation, especially if there was text over a rectangle. I tried to match the animation type and animation speed, so they either faded in or slid in together. So they're kind of grouped together, so they behaved as kind of one unit, and that way they just kind of look like they belong together, and it looks a lot smoother that way. But I think that covers it. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. I think you have my number, but if you don't, I'll send it in the email that I'm going to send to you. But I think that covers the basics of setting up a slide. And of course, feel free to email me or call me if you have any questions about anything on setting up slides or anything to do with any website. And always be sure, once you're done with anything, to hit the green Save Slide button. Otherwise, all your work will be for nothing because everything will be lost.